Welcome to Inspire West Michigan, the podcast that celebrates the visionaries, change makers, and business leaders shaping our region. Whether you're a fellow entrepreneur, emerging leader, or curious community member, Inspire West Michigan delivers content that informs, uplifts, and empowers. In each episode, we'll go behind the scenes with local CEOs, presidents, and entrepreneurs to uncover the stories, strategies, and values that drive their success and inspire our communities. From Grand Haven to Grand Rapids and beyond, this is Inspire West Michigan. Let's dig in. On this episode of Inspire West Michigan, we have representatives from each of the chambers in the Lakeshore Chamber Coalition. We will hear from them, their journey of leadership, and how collaboration has helped each of their chambers to move forward and help our regions grow. Today, we're going to be talking to each of you. I'd like each of you to introduce yourselves, the chamber that you are from, and what your position is.
Mark Allen, Chamber President and CEO for the Grand Haven, Spring Lake, Ferrysburg Chamber of Commerce. I've been in my role for almost 3 years.
And I'm Jodi Owczarski, the President and CEO for the Michigan West Coast Chamber of Commerce down in Holland, Zeeland area. And I have been with the Chamber for 9 years and the CEO for just about 4.
Hi, my name is Rachel Gorman. I am the President and CEO of the Muskegon Lakeshore Chamber of Commerce, and I have been in this role for 2 years.
Great. Thank you all. Thank you for joining me. And I'm excited to hear about what you're doing with the Lakeshore Chamber Coalition. And we're going to kind of work our way around individual questions and then questions that each of you will contribute from your perspective. So Mark and I have been fortunate to do an episode prior, so anyone who is listening, we can dig in a little bit more on the Grand Haven Chamber of Commerce and learn about them. They are also a partner for the Inspire West Michigan podcast, which has been really fun. And who knows, maybe this will help us to expand it along the lakeshore, which would be great. So let's start out by talking about how the Lakeshore Chamber Coalition came to be.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, we all knew each other before we were in our roles as president and CEO. When I was with Grand Rapids and Rachel with at Muskegon during that time, and Jodi was with the West Coast Chamber. So then fast forward, we all became into these roles that we hold right now, and we all work better together. And so collaboration and not competition, and that's something that we all agree to, and really understanding that the Lakeshore region is its own region. Yes, we're part of West Michigan, but we are our own region out here along the Lakeshore, and we all understood that. And the benefit of our membership organizations all up and down the Lakeshore, but also for the team aspect of it, collaboration among our team. There's not a lot of people that are really in the chamber industry, and to connect closely like we do has been a big benefit. So it's not just for the members, it's for us as a organization and our teams too.
We all replaced long-term tenured leaders at our organization, which was fantastic that we had the opportunity to learn from long-term successful leaders, but it also gave unique challenges. And so as we came in at approximately the same time, we recognized that we were all facing similar challenges as well. And so the coalition kind of naturally evolved as we started seeking each other's guidance on issues that we were experiencing in this transition. And we realized there was so much more that we could tap into and ultimately formalized that partnership.
We also really like each other as people.
Which is great.
And so that makes this really, truly joy-filled work we do together. But one thing that's been a happy circumstance from the coalition is how much we advise our members to look at leaders in their industries and leaders along the lakeshore for collaboration opportunities. And we feel really good that we're walking that talk as well. Certainly we have businesses that stretch along the lakeshore. And so that's also been really rewarding for us to hear feedback from our members that they're happy to see us collaborating and the power of the work that we're doing together.
Yeah, it's, collaboration within your teams is obviously a big part of this as well. Has it been a surprise to any of them how open you expect them to be and willing to collaborate with each other's teams?
Yeah, I think a little bit. We all run on EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and that spirit of open, honest, transparent communication. And now we're being open and honest with our neighboring chambers. It's just new, and it creates a little bit of uncomfortableness. But, I hope that they learn by my example. They say it's lonely at the top, right? Well, that's true. And I don't view them, I mean, yes, they are my colleagues, but they're my coworkers. If I need to talk to a coworker, we solved 2 or 3 problems just in the hallway to this door, right? So they're my coworkers, and I want my team and their teams to feel the exact same way.
That's wonderful.
One of the things that I love about the chamber industry is that we share the secret sauce recipe openly, right? We hand over the cookbook. And that's easy to do for somebody who's across the country, to say, yeah, here you go. Do what we do if that's what you want to do. And we're happy to share the recipe of how to do that. It feels a little different when you're doing it with your neighboring competitor chambers. But when we look at that and we realize, what, we are different chambers. Some members are members of multiple chambers with us. Others find that their best fit is maybe Grand Haven or Muskegon or the West Coast. But we realize that if they're being served in the right way and that our region here is stronger, that we're all better. So it doesn't have to happen solely at our chamber. So we can share that secret sauce recipe to our neighboring chambers and hope that they have as much success as we strive to have.
Well, and you used air quotes for the listener actually listening to this on the podcast instead of video, but you used air quotes around the word competitor,
right?
And I think that's the key here, right?
It
is that you probably are to some degree, but to look beyond that and look for the opportunity to share and to learn from one another and be inspired by one another is really the core of the message here with the coalition, that at the end of the day, we are stronger together, that there's room for everyone to succeed.
That's right.
And that we can we can celebrate one another's success and we can help them through their challenges. How has your team reacted, Rachel?
It's been great. Again, walking the talk, the 3 of us gathering regularly, but I was delighted when my event manager was saying, like, hey, I'm going to get together with the event managers on Mark and Jodi's teams. And I didn't ask them to do that. They were doing it on their own. So that has been incredible, and they're all better for it. And we're happy to see them get together.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to dig in really quick on an example of that. And each of you are sporting your Community Impact Day t-shirts. Probably there was a little conversation about that, I'm going to assume. But Community Impact Day, did that start with one of your 3 chambers? And is that an example of a collaborative effort?
It did. It started at the West Coast Chamber. It was an offshoot of our leadership program. I was looking for a way for us to go do something tangible on the last day of the leadership program. And so we started it by just having the graduate ask a friend or a colleague, somebody who is important to them, to come along with them and to go serve together. And once we did that we realized, well, there's something here. And so we built out what's now turned into Community Impact Day that has, these 2 bought in quickly, which I just love.
It was an easy yes.
It was an easy yes. Yeah.
It's literally my favorite day of the year. But now it's spread across the country as well. So when we completed Community Impact Day 2026, there was over 20 chambers across the country that were participating at the same day, at the same time, wearing these same blue shirts. So there's others that do it outside of that time frame, but to know that there was just this impact of us working together, how that turns little ripples into tidal waves of positive impact is just something really special.
And I was saying on the way in, we were thanking Jodi for the opportunity to join the effort. And it's now that we're 2 days out, it's again, so fun to hear from our members, like, thank you to our chamber for this opportunity, but it really is such a tangible way to see collaboration along the Lakeshore and everybody doing good things. And true, like Jodi was saying, the ripples now happening of like people discovering work sites that they didn't know, now being really great vested volunteers. That could turn into a really dedicated board member. That could turn into a really dedicated donor. And that's what the chamber, what we get to do. So thank you again, Jodi, for the gift.
And the excitement from the membership. So we had our breakfast this morning, and that ripple effect, right? They're already talking about next year, and how they want to engage and volunteer and
I suspect organizations that maybe missed out or didn't know that what it meant.
Right.
They were maybe asked, "Do you want to participate?" and they didn't understand what that meant. I know our team at Acorn Marketing participated in Community Impact Day this year for the first time, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, it's I think we all felt the impact that we were making, which is wonderful, but it was also a really great team building opportunity and an activity that we could do together and, work hard and have fun. So
that's right. The wins just stack on days like that, right? You get good team building. We've heard members say it's an employee retention piece even, right? When employees see that their employer invests in things beyond just growing their dollar, it's important to them.
Yeah.
And it was great team building, not just for your team, but you got to connect with folks from other organizations.
Yes, we did.
And learn about them and work side by side. So it's the collaboration and the teamwork aspect while we're supporting all these nonprofits that support our communities all year long.
We saw leaders serving alongside other leaders, and it's just the coolest thing when I watch the executive team from the hospital, right, working alongside the tech team from an internet service provider, and seeing that collaboration. And you wouldn't know that, this is the CEO for the hospital, and this is a help desk guy from a tech company, working side by side, right? It removes these barriers.
It does.
It's just the coolest thing to get to watch.
Yeah. Neat. So we talked about how that was, one of the things that has come out of the coalition. Can either of you or any of you think of another good example of, an event or an activity that was truly born out of this collaboration?
One thing we're all leaning further into in such a timely time of the year, but our advocacy work as chambers. And so we all do approach this work differently, but there's a commonality of giving access to our members to elected officials, giving access to members to understand the policy at play and how that's going to affect their businesses. And I like to say we're really living through the impacts of term limits at the state. And so now with redistricting, we're all sharing elected officials like we've never had before. And I think it's very respected on their end sometimes, making the most of their time when they're in district in West Michigan. If there's opportunity for us to host them together, if there's opportunity for us to get our members ready for very intentional asks to understand issues specific in the Lakeshore that they can go back to Lansing and advocate for fully. And so that's been an incredible, very, I would say, tangible opportunity. But looking ahead to this year, we're going to elect a new governor in the state of Michigan. They've got 83 counties to cover. If we can help them get to some really intentional visits in 2 of those counties, like they're happy for that. And then whoever wins, they're going to remember to call the 3 of us for help. Exactly. Right. Yeah.
And it's interesting too, none of our chambers, and correct me if I'm wrong, endorse candidates.
Right.
And so it's the education and the awareness piece of it that is really where this collaborative effort and focus comes from. If we're touring a business here in our region that happens to also be a member of Rachel's chamber, we're going to invite them to come along too. I think that's the power in all of us working together in that aspect is incredible. And like she said, if they win or are reelected, right, we become even a little bit more higher on their radar.
Right.
I think the first event that we actually did as a part of the coalition, we brought in the Lieutenant Governor and the Secretary of State, right? Those are 2 very high-level positions that our members had access to that I don't know they would have had we done that individually.
And it is strategic and it's efficient. And I think all of us hear from our members, that's kind of these pain points of frustration with working at different levels of government. So again, like we're modeling the behavior we want to see. And I think it is appreciated and it is something that they learn from as well.
Yeah. So each of you, we talked about how each of you began in your role on the heels of someone who had been in that role for quite a long time. but each of you have your own story and how you came to be in this role. Can we take a minute and just talk about what your journey has looked like?
Yeah. So we talked about this before, but certainly happy to share again.
Yes, please.
I was an ambassador for this chamber probably 20, 25 years ago. Now I'm aging myself. But anyway, so I was a volunteer chamber member, chamber ambassador for many, many years. Then I entered into the chamber industry with the Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce, where I was at for 15 years, and used to joke that, when Joy retired, I would take that job, thinking it was never going to happen. And then all of a sudden, one day, I was in meetings and my phone just started to literally blow up. And, first thought was panic, what's wrong in the world?
Yeah.
But it was so many people saying, hey, do you know this? And threw my hat in the ring. And here I am today, 3 years later.
And Grand Haven is better because of it.
Oh, thank you. Enjoying it every day.
That's great. Jodi?
I had a long and winding journey to get here. And I realized by the time that I took this job that it was the perfect path to prepare me for this role. Straight out of college, I worked HR for a large manufacturer. I stayed home for a long time as an at-home mom, and so I had that experience. I returned as a self-employed event planner, wedding and event planner, and then ended up running a nonprofit. I've done global consulting in a COO role, and just kind of had all of these various experiences. And I realized that I've touched a lot of different ways that members experience the world. And so I had a better understanding of some of the unique challenges that exist in each of those areas. And so it gave me a better understanding to approach the work that I get to do now at the chamber. I too was an ambassador at the time that I actually was hired in and a part of the leadership class. So yeah, I was engaged and involved with the chamber.
My chamber story, I was a chamber intern at the Muskegon Lakeshore Chamber of Commerce my senior year of college, and we all joke, like, we should tell kids to work at chambers more.
Yeah,
it's just
we
not a
should.
career option, talked enough about, but had no idea, completely fell in love with the work. And I was just saying it changed the trajectory of my life, because I was like, I got to get out of West Michigan at least, go to Chicago or something. But where Muskegon was as a community and development during that internship, things were different. It was a different community than what I grew up in. So fell in love with the work, stuck around for 3 or 4 years, but was really inspired by our members that knew I kind of had a bug for higher education someday, and were very encouraging me of, if you're going to do it, you should do it now before your life gets busy. So transitioned away from the chamber to work at Muskegon Community College, got my MBA while I was there. We all lived through a global pandemic during that time. Moved on to a development opportunity for a nonprofit that serves both Ottawa and Muskegon counties. Ran for office during that time, was elected, and then just realized throughout this time, like, how much I really still love the chamber. Always kept tabs, and just kind of realized, like, if I never say I want this job, I really can't be upset when somebody else gets it. And so had a very intentional conversation, and that brought me where I am today. And I'm so grateful. I love getting out of bed every day to do this incredible work.
Well, I think you each have worked and lived in, representing the point of view of each of your members, which gives you the ability to lead in a way that is informed, and it's different than when you come from a really disconnected place to try to then fall into the role that you're in, and be able to speak knowledgeably about the point of view and the position that your members are in. So I think you're right that, that your path led you to this point.
That's right.
And it may have seemed twisty at the time, but when you start to put your story together, the chapters align. So that's really cool.
It still seems twisty some days,
Yes,
to be honest, right?
Well, I mean, let's be honest, right? We all have a twisty past. So, but if I think in anyone's past, to be able to look back on your experiences and have them inform the decisions of the future, and inform how you work with others, how you communicate with others, the decisions that you make, that you're doing so just out of compassion and empathy and experience. And that's That's really that's all we can all do, right?
Right.
It's all we can do. So each of you represent different communities along the lakeshore, and we talk about how together we are our own region here along the lakeshore. Can we speak for a minute about the differences that you each see that that maybe make your challenges slightly different than the others, but where you can, perhaps you might be the first to tread in that path, but sooner or later it's going to help the others.
Yeah, so of the three, we are here in Grand Haven. We're the smallest chamber along the lakeshore, or among the three of us anyway. And so that creates some of its own challenges. We're a little bit more conservative here in the Tri-Cities area.
Wait, more conservative than Holland. I never thought I'd hear that.
I think
Bring it on.
Yeah, we are in change, right?
Yeah.
Change is always challenging, right? But good change is good change. And I think if I look at Muskegon and Holland and Zeeland area, we're a little bit more hesitant to accept some change, but we needed to make changes at the chamber through our board's vision and direction. We had to really focus in on being that business chamber of commerce and not so heavy on the community events and programs. And our predecessors did a great job getting us to where we're at, but as the needs of the business climate changes, we have to change as well.
And did those changes better align you with the way that West Coast Chamber and the Muskegon Chamber were set up?
Absolutely. I don't know that either of them really do a community event, but we're all focused on our communities. A strong business community breeds a strong community, and that's definitely the path that we're going on, and have learned a ton from my two colleagues here. Just about navigating that change because they've been through it.
One of the things that I changed when I came in was one of our core values, and that was to be a trailblazer. We knew that if we're going to be successful, we're going to need to do things that we've never done and maybe no other chamber has ever done before if we're going to serve our members in the way that they truly need as the world just evolves so very quickly. So one of the ways that we've done that now is leaning into the talent development space. Talent is the number one issue facing our members. And so we've actually moved physically to a new space so that we could develop a career center.
Great.
And work more closely with high school students and young professionals, college students, to make sure that they're career ready. Our schools do a great job of getting them to graduation, but 77% of students graduating from high school say they are unprepared for what's next. And so that's not the fault of our educators. They're doing exactly what they've been tasked to do. But we've got to come alongside them and make sure that they're ready for more than just graduating, but ready for what's next. And so we're really excited about the work that we've done over the last 2 years in that space and the traction we're gaining for where that's going next.
In Muskegon, I like to say we're within West Michigan nice is real, but there's also Muskegon real. If you ask for an opinion, you're going to, and I love that about Muskegon. We are super unfiltered. You're gonna hear all the thoughts and opinions, but our chamber, has a history of success for pushing development, pushing change in Muskegon. We have a completely different downtown, like I was saying, that I grew up with, that the business community was the driver of that. Big changes that, relocating our farmers market, that was going to be the end of, the community. So we're at an interesting crossroads right now of just the change in industry, but also, again, the identity of our community as a waterfront community. Recently, there's been a huge land swap in the heart of downtown. So together, how is the business community really pushing the conversation of what development of that waterfront looks like to benefit everyone and increase this incredible quality of life in Muskegon so we can attract the new talent that we're going to need for the workforce of the future. And so that's a really fun space that the chamber gets to be on. We're all really at this intersection a lot between government, education, nonprofits. And it can be a challenge, but it's also really, really rewarding work.
That's great. So, certainly as a trailblazer, not only are you, each of you, a trailblazer in your own communities, you're not only tapping into the experiences of each other, but I suspect that outreach happens with other chambers across the country. Are there organizations that hold events where you have an opportunity to collaborate with folks that are in your role in other states and other communities? How does that work?
Yeah, we're lucky here in our state. We have a very active association of chamber professionals, Michigan Association of Chamber Professionals. Several programming opportunities throughout the year for our teams to connect and share best practices, but then also the annual convention that takes place in October. And then in August, there's a CEO summit. And so we're getting together as CEOs with our colleagues and counterparts from across the state. And all three of us have a good history of attending that. And it's good to collaborate and learn about what's going on in your industry from other folks in other communities. In the chamber world. If you've seen one chamber, you've seen one chamber. But I
love
can.
that saying.
The other one is R&D, rip off and duplicate.
Yes.
I can learn,
R&D.
right? I can learn from Rachel's chamber, and if they're bigger than me or smaller than me,
Yes.
I just need to tweak it so that it works for my chamber and community, and that's one of the big benefits I think here in our state.
Right. Nationally, that's true as well. So I think we're all a part of the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, ACCE, and that's a very active national group that we get to attend conference. But better than that, my peers, we all have a Google group so that when you have a question in the moment, you can send it out to all of the CEOs in like-sized chambers for them to send you that feedback in real time. So it's a really tangible. Some weeks you get none, and other weeks you might be flooded with requests and questions. But being able to have that resource right at your fingertips is fantastic.
And we say a lot. We're, again, very fortunate to be in a very strong chamber state. But like Jodi was saying, all of us engaged at a national level. So just always bragging on the West Coast Chamber being a Chamber of the Year at the national is a
Yes.
huge deal.
Thank
It's
you.
a huge deal for all of us that Michigan is a competitive state when it comes to like a strong Chamber of Commerce state. So way to go. Jodi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's take a minute and make sure that we all understand what was just said.
Yeah.
So
I didn't wear my tiara today.
no, you did not.
It's in her car.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, the West Coast Chamber of Commerce was recognized as the 2025
Yep.
Chamber of the Year
Yes.
nationally.
Yes.
It's a very big
Yeah.
deal.
Thank you. We worked really hard. It was a goal that we set for ourselves out there that was aspirational and not for the simple fact of like we wanted to have that title, but we knew that if we could do the type of work that would qualify for being named Chamber of the Year, that we were doing the right things for our community and for our members. And so, yeah, we set that goal, and we're fortunate enough to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message that you're saying there is really good. When you are recognized like that, it doesn't happen by accident.
No.
It doesn't happen the week before the competition.
No.
It's, it takes a great deal of planning. It takes, it takes an organization that understands that every player has a role and that everyone's, in the same boat, oaring in the same direction. And that's it. It takes a strong leader to get everyone aligned in that way. So congratulations.
Thank you. We realized it's not even just our team, right? If our members aren't engaged with
Right.
us in the way that is meaningful, it doesn't matter what we're doing if our community isn't engaged and invested in that way. And so it was a whole community win for us to get that type of recognition.
Yeah, absolutely. We had, on my team at Acorn Marketing, we always say we don't get to decide when we're successful. It's our clients who
I
decide.
love that.
That we measure our success on our clients' success. And I think that, that our team truly feels that every day, that we don't get to decide.
Yeah.
And so you do have to have a membership that says that they're not just doing the things matter.
Right.
And they make a difference in our businesses, and they are here to serve us, and they are.
They are.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
that's great.
I'm going to R&D that.
No.
That was gold right there.
As you each are involved in this role, the work that you're doing to collaborate with one another also comes true in the encouragement that you give to your members to collaborate with one another. Let's talk about, and networking we know is kind of historically part of a chamber's responsibility to create networking opportunities. But we've learned, I think, if I remember correctly, that has taken different forms in each of your chambers. Let's share a bit about what each of you have developed within your chambers that gives your members an opportunity to participate in the same types of collaboration that you're finding so valuable with your teams.
Yeah, one of the first things when I started developed roundtables, so peer-to-peer roundtable groups where CEOs from various industries can sit down and share their challenges, successes, and hey, we're going through this or we're coming up on this. Who's been through it and can help me? And so through that, we're building that spirit of collaboration. Networking comes in all different shapes and forms, and the goal of the roundtables isn't necessarily networking. It happens naturally, but it's more of tapping into that experience and wisdom of other business leaders in the community to help you along your journey. Yeah. And that's been very successful for us. And we continue to launch some new groups, and we're working on one that Amy had brought as an idea, Women in Business Roundtable. So that's one of the big things that we've done that was new for this community.
Yeah. And he's done it so well that we're R&Ding that.
Good work.
And that is absolutely the focus that we have going forward. Mm-hmm. People aren't looking for sitting at a table and absorbing content. You can learn in so many different formats now, however you learn best and at the time and place that works for you. But what they are looking for is that peer-to-peer connection, the safe place.
Yes.
To be able to learn from each other, real world things.
And to be able to ask deep questions.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. It's not always cocktail party questions,
No.
right? It's deep questions.
Absolutely.
What are
in
you
a safe
facing?
place.
Right. What kinds of things are you facing as you're trying to hire people? What are your employees wanting from you? Just how are you handling work from home in a post-COVID world? So many really, really deep questions that maybe you can't ask at a business after hours or what have you, but you can when you sit with like-minded people around a table,
right,
who are all faced with the exact same things that you are, whether they're in your industry or not.
Right,
and
exactly.
You mentioned a couple times that safe space, and that's the smaller group is so important in these roundtable settings. If I'm at a breakfast event or a luncheon event and there's 50 people in the room, and it might be a great speaker that I have a question for, I might not be comfortable airing that laundry.
No, you're not going to raise your hand.
Right, but in a small group of 15 people, right? How am I handling, hiring? I've got a difficult employee situation. It's okay in those small trusted spaces.
And, we're talking about our leadership journeys, but it's been fun at our chamber, just the legacy changeover and leadership changeover that's happening all around. But for us at a board level, we have a regular cycle of terms that expire and new folks coming in. But with my leadership coming in, it's been great to have former board members that are still very engaged with the chamber council, our current board members. And I see the light bulbs go off, especially when we're talking about these big community developments. The light bulbs for new board members being like, oh, somebody should do that. That was the chamber. Here was the strategy. And I was really happy to overhear a conversation with my board, a newer board member talking to one that had been on. He was like, this board's great. We're really doing things. And that's such a rewarding thing for us to hear, because it is such an incredible gift of time from these executives that they're donating to their business community to lead the way. And so to know that they're gaining as much out of it as we're hoping to glean from them to, put us on our path, that has been great too.
So let's talk a bit about, we know that COVID came and happened. It was here. It was a thing. And, but what we find certainly in marketing is that it sped things up at a speed that none of us expected, and in ways that none of us expected. How have your chambers changed in the most recent years in an unexpected way? Probably because of the kinds of things that happened during the pandemic, that put you in a position to face things sooner than or to have your members facing things sooner or more unexpectedly than they would have.
Yeah, first I'll say the chamber industry was hit hard by COVID. There's chambers across the country that closed as a result of COVID. So the fact that we are all still here is a good thing. And again, for all of our predecessors that led the charge through COVID, we're very grateful for that. I think for us, the big thing is really realizing and understanding that the chamber is not just networking. We're a resource. Hey, I've got this. I need help for that. I need to connect with my state representative. Can you help me? And so I think for us, I certainly wasn't here during COVID, but I was in the industry. And I can say too, even with my other organization I was with, that really put the spotlight on chambers as a resource, and I can go to them.
Yeah. I'd take that one step further, even say a trusted resource. I think that we actually gained credibility during the pandemic because things were coming so quickly that members didn't have any idea where they should go, and the misinformation that was out there was just rampant. But they knew that if they saw the information on the chamber website or got it from the chamber in an email or however they got it from the chamber, that it was true and accurate. And so that has held true now, right? Things aren't changing necessarily at the same speed as they did during the early days of COVID, but they're still changing very, very rapidly. And they can still look to the chamber as that trusted resource to understand, what is it that this means for me? Let's take tariffs, for example, right? I mean, tariffs were changing on a daily basis. And so how does this impact my business? Now that some of those have been overturned, what happens for the money that I've paid? They know they can come to the chamber and see the resources that we have to understand the process that they need to follow if they want to get those dollars back.
Yeah, and it really gave us in our industry, we were writing the playbook as it happened, right? But since that time, I think about our colleagues in Northern Michigan, like, once in a 100-year ice storm. Well, they were ready to, assist the community leadership, the communication plan. Hey, this company wants to supply meals for, the crisis emergency teams, like being organized. We've been able to really polish that as an industry. And then I think the power of the three of us together, I hope there's nothing that's coming our way, but
Hantavirus, what?
We can all sleep a little bit more comfortably. I think I know of Muskegon's crisis, response plan. How does it relate to Grand Haven? How does it relate to Holland? Three of us are, on speed dial. So there's a lot of power in that. And that did come from this pandemic.
There are a lot of good things that came out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we can just glass half full, right? Yep. There are a lot of really good things because it did, create a preparedness for, just about anything,
right?
Events, but just about anything, and things that you never knew you needed to be prepared for.
Right.
But to your point, I do think that it did give your organizations an opportunity to be seen as a resource, not only from an advocacy perspective, but just as someone who was seen as a calm force, and one that you were having to answer those questions to all businesses. So as a business owner, you don't know who to ask when you have questions, and particularly those people who are new to business ownership or new to leadership in businesses, or entrepreneurs who are in the midst of trying to open a new business. They don't know where to go, and you kind of, I think, at that point see everyone as competition, so to speak. It's like, how much do I share and with whom so that I can get the information that I want, I don't think it's widely known that the chamber is a place where you can go if you're new to business. I think it's growing that businesses understand that the chamber is a place where you can go. But as a new business owner, how do we get that word out when they haven't been involved with the chamber to date? And, how, I guess, how is the chamber, Mark, for you? How is the chamber addressing the needs of those people who are interested in opening new businesses, or those entrepreneurs, so that they begin a relationship with the chamber on the right foot?
Yeah, I love to sit down with a small business owner or a new entrepreneur and hear their story and their vision and their dream, right? But then let's walk through your checklist together. What have you done already? What have you not done? And oh, by the way, you should add this type of person to your list. And then we go to work to make sure that they're connected to those entrepreneurial support organizations, which again, we're very lucky here in West Michigan. We have a lot of those ESO organizations that we can refer people out to. But then it's my job to make sure I'm checking back with you as that small business owner. Hey, did you find the right attorney? Tell me about your accounting situation right now. Have you connected with your city, your local governing municipality, to make sure you're following all the zoning requirements? Can you really run a business in that neighborhood, right? So all these things that I don't know how I learned them all, just by experience and information along the way. But how do we share that out with people that are embarking on that business ownership?
Yeah. And do you find that there is more or less of that happening today?
It comes in waves.
Yeah.
So I think the last time we spoke, I had just had 3 within a week, and it comes and goes here and there. But we're always our doors always open to that small business entrepreneur, and I guess it doesn't have to be small business. There are a lot of people that are looking to buy medium-sized manufacturing companies, and so how do we help them? Right.
We find each person's situation and needs are unique. And so our approach generally is to just sit down and to listen actively. And so we can hear what it is that they're looking for, what maybe issues that they're trying to solve, and then either show them the path that the chamber can help with, or be that trusted resource to get them to the right organization that can better support them through whatever stage that they're at in their journey. And so having that Rolodex and understanding of the whole ecosystem of our business community helps us better share those resources appropriately. We don't want to be all things to all businesses, right?
No,
we can't be.
Can't be.
And so understanding our lane and then happily referring them to the other lanes that are more appropriate for their need at that time is a great role for us to play.
Well, I think just being a connector is such a huge part of what the chambers, bring.
And one thing when we, especially with younger and newer entrepreneurs, one way we tell our story of how to help them be successful is, for better or worse right now, it feels like, hey, if you can start a social media page, you got a product or a service, like you're, quote, in business. Helping them understand that chamber membership is a very intentional choice as a business owner, and it likely means there has been some kind of human conversation about what that membership means. So for new entrepreneurs, the way of, if I'm going to source material from someone locally, the chamber is a great place to look for that first, because they have likely talked to that business owner, and they're really located in West Michigan. They're really committed to supporting locals. So demystifying what a chamber is has been a great way to connect with those emerging entrepreneurs and make sure they're successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm just going to share too that connection piece, not relative just to small businesses, but to all of our businesses and current membership, right? It's okay to call your chamber and say, hey, I need to connect with somebody that does this. And your chamber should ask you a series of questions, do the research, send you a list of options, and be willing to make those introductions for you. Because we're a catalyst for your business, we're a connector, and we're a convener of conversations. All 3 of us at our core, any chamber really at their core, should be a catalyst, a convener, and a connector.
Yeah, I love that. Love those 3 words. You talked a little bit about career readiness and educating talent and things like that. Can you talk about the things that you're doing to help those young people, and where maybe you see some gaps?
Love to. So I say I'm old enough that, or I say I'm old, but when I came out
I
of
like enough.
Yeah.
I like enough, meaning wise.
Wise.
That
We'll
means
go with that.
wise, seasoned. Yes.
Well, I'm old enough that when I graduated from high school, I was told that my options were to be a teacher or a nurse because I was a girl. And it really didn't matter because you're just going to get married and have babies anyway. And that was just the norm, right? Well, the pendulum has swung so far the other direction now that the options are unlimited, right? And now kids are almost paralyzed by
Yes.
how in the world do I make this decision of what I should do or be? And then we have parents in the middle saying, white collar, not using that language, but
Yes,
that
yeah.
white collar equals success, and that you have to go to college and you have to get this kind of job, regardless of whether or not they have the skill set to be successful in that area. So one of the things we're doing foundationally is that we're offering an online assessment. It's called YouScience that helps measure your aptitudes.
Yeah.
And then it shows how that shows up for you in the workforce, just in the daily interactions and the things that you would do, what will work well and where you'll have challenges. But then it also shows you what careers align with those aptitudes. And as the chamber, then once they have that foundational information, we can help them, A, be able to walk through that information and understand what it means, but then B, give them opportunities to start exploring things that they had never considered,
right.
but that their aptitudes show that they would be good at. And so we sit at that unique intersection where we can make those connections and make those opportunities possible for kids regardless of their background, regardless of where they go to school or who their parents are. We believe that all students, all individuals should have those opportunities. And so we've done this now over the last 2 years. We worked with over 1,500 students, and now we're just taking a big leap up with the number of students that we'll engage in, where the entire 8th grade class for Zeeland schools will be taking the assessment next week so that they can hit high school ready to continue those conversations and be prepared for what happens after they leave school. And maybe it's a white collar job, maybe it requires college, but maybe it doesn't. And that's okay too, but they can do that from a place of knowledge and make deliberate decisions instead of just kind of following a path with uncertainty.
Right. So it's so how do students choose to become involved, or have you collaborated with the schools so that it's all students?
Great question. So as we were kind of beta testing this process, we chose a few different partners that were early adopters. So we started with the alternative high school at West Ottawa, students that maybe didn't see a clear path and that we thought we could really make a big impact for. We worked with some nonprofit organizations that worked with students after school. Holland Public Schools had their seniors and then junior class take it. And so we just had little pockets that was happening with. And now that we're seeing the success and that the teachers and administrators are understanding the impact of what is happening, they're buying in bigger chunks. And we're going to see whole school districts adopt this now.
And it'll be at that 8th grade. At that 8th grade level, is there
potentially?
Yeah.
Yep. So 8th grade is kind of that first time that they can take it. Really, students need to have gone through puberty before those results are solidified, but they can get early results in 8th grade to start that thought process, and then they'll take a more full assessment. Yep, so that they can take that in high school and continue that and have that more
And once
solidified.
they've had more kind of educational experience and exposure, perhaps, then it's, people are.
This isn't so much interest. My daughter took tests in middle school, right? That it was like, what should you be? And it's so clear what they're asking you. And she was so proud to come home and say, mine said I should be a bartender, so I don't have to go to college. And I was like, think again, because I know you, right? This is not that kind of an assessment. And so it's really how your brain is wired. And how you work.
Manage conflict.
Everything. Yep. So it's really an exciting tool that we believe is foundational to the next steps for us to be able to offer. I'm slightly passionate, if you can't tell.
No, I think it's wonderful, and I'm all about career readiness. I think there's a gap for sure.
There is.
Between what both the high schools are, and not a knock. I mean,
No,
they're
not a knock
they're
at
not
all.
a knock at all. I mean, there's only so much you can do, and but I think there's a gap, and so it's wonderful to see. One of the things that I will say to my team and to anyone coming aboard and remind people is that when you see gaps, step into them. That's a measure of success to me, is that you see, not only do you see the gaps, but you're willing to step into them and to help create solutions around those. So I love that that's an area where you've helped to fill that gap, or begun to fill that gap. And I'm sure we'll see that expand. And
I hope so.
Yeah.
Excited to see it grow.
Yeah,
Yes,
same.
for sure. What's happening in Muskegon as it relates to talent and addressing talent?
So we're really excited to celebrate 11 years of the Muskegon Area Promise. So 11 years ago, it was really the chamber that helped drove getting the scholarship opportunity for Muskegon County high school graduates. And so at that time, there was some pretty critical private sector funding that needed to happen that the chamber helped coordinate. But for only 3 school districts at that time. So 11 years later, any high school graduate out of Muskegon County qualifies for the Muskegon Area Promise. So that allows for tuition coverage at Muskegon Community College and Baker College of Muskegon. That includes homeschool students. There is no GPA requirement anymore. So we really worked hard to remove the barriers. But like we're saying, it's not just about sending graduates to get a degree necessarily. The chambers helped coordinate to make sure the private sector voice is there for qualifications and certifications necessary to work at these incredible companies along the Lakeshore. But now, 11 years later, we're excited to say that the promise has been able to be available retroactively now. So graduates from the last 10 years can qualify. So
That's
now
wonderful.
it's
So they can
incredible.
return
This is
to
like
school.
breaking news. So
they can return to school at any age,
at any
being
age.
a graduate
Yep, being
of
a
Muskegon Public
graduate.
Schools.
And so now it's a fun opportunity to talk to our members about, hey, this is a recruitment tool for your company because you've chosen to be located in Muskegon County, and it's really no cost to you. Then, another opportunity to work with the education partners to rethink about what their offerings look like, because they're also in an industry that needs to change. So having direct access, though, to CEOs that are, leaders in their industry to help them understand, like, the curriculum perhaps that has been in the schools, like, needs to change to make it relevant for this workforce. And that's a huge recruitment tool for people moving to Muskegon that have not, thought about it before. It's a huge gift to the parents, right, to know that my kid is going to graduate from a high school in Muskegon and like be on their way. And students now are like way more financially aware of the decisions they're making, and their buy-in of like, is this going to give me the career that's going to give me the lifestyle I want in West Michigan? So that's been a fun new way the chamber's been leaning into talent recruitment and workforce development. Yeah. It's super exciting.
Well done.
Mark,
Yeah, we have our business education partnership program. So that primarily is with Grand Haven Area Public Schools, but we're working on growing that. And right now we're working with them to bring awareness to the manufacturing community on a manufacturing education module to come into middle schools. Allendale has that, and we're excited that Grand Haven Public Schools is interested in that. Outside of the schools themselves, we're being very intentional about bringing our businesses down to the Career Line Tech Center for tours, not just to learn about the programs for the high school students, but the programs for adult workers, all right, upskilling your current employees. And so with the Tech Center and then the Sturris Center up at Muskegon Community College, want to make sure that we're bringing awareness to those programs. This is an area that we are continuing to put more energy and focus into because talent is one of the biggest issues for our community, along with housing and transportation, education, childcare, right? The whole list. But then I think the other thing is Muskegon Community College is our community college here in Northwest Ottawa County, and helping them make sure that message is out there that kids in our community are eligible for half-off tuition at Muskegon Community College. Is huge, right?
Yeah.
I shared it this morning at our breakfast that, gosh, where were they when I was paying college tuition for 3 kids all at once? So, darn it. But anyway, so yes, we are increasing our presence and visibility in that space, along with our business education partnership that's existed for many, many years. And then our Boomerang event. It's not a job fair. It's a career exploration event that takes place in October every year. That grew significantly last year, and we hope to see it grow again this year.
All really, really incredible activities, and certainly addressing one of the big issues in our region. We've talked for a long time, but I don't want to miss a thing. It's all very, very interesting and so good for all of our business leaders and entrepreneurs and eventual business owners to learn about their chambers. Is there anything that we have not touched on with each of your chambers that you want to be sure that we talk about, and make sure that we hear from each of you individually?
I think we've hit on everything. I would just, as that reminder, don't be afraid to reach out to your Chamber of Commerce as that resource for information. You need a connection, or maybe I need to sit down and run through a marketing strategy with somebody on the Chamber team real quick. And then I would just say thank you to Jodi and Rachel for being in that little text group that the three of us have. And the messages, some days they just run wild between the three of us trying to make sure that we're in alignment, but also tapping into our experience and knowledge. So again, collaboration, not competition.
That's right.
Well, and just any time that you have that extra little source of inspiration, I love your R&D and things like that, but it's real. And we all have to, we get tired, right? And we have to have ways that we can keep ourselves inspired, and collaboration is such a huge part of that.
Totally agree. I think I know that I can trust these two with open and honest conversation. And so I don't have to hold back from sharing the actual issues that we're experiencing. And that is such a gift. And so my encouragement to other people would be enjoy that and find those trusted resources for yourself, but also be that trusted resource for someone else, right? Make sure that you are someone that people can come to, that they can trust, that it stays with you, that you'll give your honest feedback, and that you'll be non-judgmental and supportive.
You bring up a really good point, and I think that we don't always see potential collaborators, unless we keep our eyes open for them, and they don't have to look just like you. They don't have to be in exactly the same role that you're in. They maybe have walked a similar path, or they're facing a similar challenge. But I think just to keep our eyes open for those partnerships and to be open to them is part of it.
I just add, when we look at like Chamber of Commerce history, it's fascinating to see that throughout time, it has really always been the business leaders leading communities to change. And so I just encourage our members to really remember that sometimes when they're so in it, to look outside to the Lakeshore, like they have a really strong voice and a really interesting perspective of where the business community is going along the Lakeshore. And all three of us very much look at our jobs of like, we get to do this work.
right.
This is the best job in the world. And we are here to like help carry out, those observations, those ideas. So we're here. Like I've got a million ideas of what I would love to do, but at the end of the day, we're really reporting to our members, and we take that work very seriously. And it's a huge opportunity that, again, we're all delighted to do.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, so number one message I'm hearing about the Lakeshore Chamber Coalition is just together we are stronger, and that that you're really leading the charge to being a unified region along the Lakeshore, and clearly tapping into each other's smarts and experiences to bring more to our business communities. So I can't thank you enough as a business owner for being here and giving me energy and inspiration, giving my team opportunities to participate in different things, and providing resources to me and to everyone else out there. So Thank you.
Thank
One
you.
last
Thank you so much.
question. Do we think in the future there's an opportunity where there's a collaborative Lakeshore Chamber Coalition event where businesses along the lakeshore have more?
Twist my arm. Let's
Yeah.
do it, guys.
That would be fun.
I think so.
Yeah.
We already have a few things stewing in the pot
Oh,
around that.
we do
Yes.
indeed.
Yeah, fun,
Yeah.
fun. All right, good things. Thank you all for joining me
Absolutely.
today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing all of you more and more. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Inspire West Michigan. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a review to help others find our show. Visit inspirewestmichigan.com and follow us on social media for more behind-the-scenes stories. Until next time, stay inspired, West Michigan.